We're chatting grade 11 life sciences with Kathy. Let's get straight to it, get those questions in, and I'll try and kind of nicely, get in with Kathy and say, hey Kathy, they're not understanding. So the only place to start is the beginning.
Now, in grade 10, you did the cell, and you did all the organelles in the cell. Now we are going to look at plant and animal tissue. Now, if you recall, cells group together to make tissue. The tissues make layers, and those layers eventually become an organ. The organs group together to form a system, and all the systems in your body end up making you the organism. Okay, so start off with your cells, grade 10. In grade 11, we are doing the tissue layers, which make up the organs, which make up the systems, which make up the organism, being in this case, plants. So your plants are going to be your organism. And we're looking at what system? The transport system. You may say, well, hold on a minute. Those boring green things outside there, that like the grass that our parents want us to mow, and the trees that need to be trimmed, and those green things, and also the pretty flowery things, all plants have to absorb water from the soil and transport that water to their leaves. Why? Well, basically, there are two processes that require a transport system. So it's like their blood system. And that will be, very simply put, let me just move this up, is so that they can get to the leaves. So we want the water needs to go to the leaves. Why? For a process called photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthesis. Photo means light, synthesis means to make. So a plant is going to use light, sunlight, to make food. And that food is stored. Some of it's used, but most of it is stored. And we go along and we eat the plants, or a herbivore will go and eat the plant, and it will then take those proteins and the nutrients and everything that was made during photosynthesis, and it will go into the then consumer's body. All right, so photosynthesis, very important, and it happens in the leaves, everything that's green. That's why they need water. Where's the water coming from? It's coming from the soil. All right, so now we've got the water up the plant, from the soil, up the plant, to the leaves, so that photosynthesis can take place. Okay, let's change our pen. All right, now the second process that's very, very important is now the plant, the leaves have made food. They've made nutrients. Those nutrients, guys and girls, just think about it. The nutrients now have to go from the leaves. So we look at the nutrients, and they need to pass from the leaves, which is where they were produced. Oh, by the way, the process of photosynthesis and making food, the plant creating its own food, we say that the plant is auto, which means on its own, trophic. It can make its own food. Trophic means food. So autotrophic, it can make its own food. By what? Process of photosynthesis. Where? In the leaves. Now, the nutrients that have been made in the leaves, they have to go from the leaves, and hello, they can't just stay in the leaves. So what about those little root cells down there that have to absorb water? And they have to make new cells, and they have to grow and repair and replace. They need nutrients for that. So, hello, how do we get it from the leaves? Well, it can't go the same way it came up, because then we've got, it would be like turning a tap open, Indy, and even somebody who's never done biology or life sciences and introduces grade 11 life sciences, I'm not going to let her forget this, as
Never.
physical science. I mean, hello. Okay, so let's do a bit of physical science, life science
Put me on the
combined.
spot here. Let's go.
If we turn a tap open and the water's rushing out, can you now get anything to go up that tap?
No.
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 So, can we have water, the water coming from the soil, up the leaves, to the leaves, up the stem to the leaves for photosynthesis, because they're autotrophic? Can we then get those nutrients to now go in the same tubes? No, we can't. So, guess what? Plants have another process, another structure to get the nutrients from the leaves all the way to the stems, and then from the stems all the way to the little roots. And I say little roots to the tiniest little roots that you could not even see with your eye. Okay, so all of that, we now think, oh, hold on, water coming in, nutrients going down. How do the nutrients get transported? The same way they get in our bodies. Blood? No, but plant blood. And that plant blood is water and a whole bunch of nutrients, just like our blood, except it doesn't look like our blood because it doesn't have erythrocytes. Okay, so we've got two processes. We've got water going up, and I'm going to use a different color here. We've got water going up the plant to the leaves, and we've got nutrients coming, and I'm going to put that in green, coming downhill and being transported everywhere. So this would be water and mineral salts, but mainly water, and this here is going to be nutrients, organic compounds. Now in grade 10, and for the grade 10s that are watching, this is why we focus so much on the chemistry of life. Okay, now, so that when you get to grade 11, which is what I'm going to do now, we understand that the carbohydrates and the proteins, and believe it or not, the fats that we have in a plant can be transported up and down the plant. Okay, now, our two processes, or our two structures that are going to transport things up and down a plant are, if it is going up the plant, in other words, it is, I'm putting in brackets, the water, or H2O, the water, plus mineral salts. Okay, that goes up the plant via the xylem. Okay, and coming down the plant and up the plant and around the plant, okay, is going to be the phloem. And the phloem is going to carry water. You should know water's H2O by now. So water plus nutrients. And what are those nutrients going to be? The nutrients themselves are going to be the carbohydrates, the starch, the fats, and the proteins. And that's what's going to be mixed in the phloem. All right, so this is very important. You've got to understand this. So please, any questions? Indy's your person. Indy, have we got any questions so far?
Well, we do. What I want to know is, how is water trapped in the soil? And how does the water move from the soil into the plant?
Okay. I need another page.
We need a whole page for that.
Yep.
We need a whole page for that.
Okay, here we go, new page. All right. Water is found in the soil in two ways. Okay. The first one is, you know, when you put your finger in soil and you mush it around and you end up with mud
Muddy
and slushy and yucky stuff all around you, because the soil feels wet. That water is called capillary water. Okay, so your capillary water is going to be, if these are the little soil granules, and we get a blue. It's the water that's everywhere in between here. It's the water you're going to be able to feel with your fingers and taste with your tongue if you want to, etc. So that's your capillary water. Okay. The second type of water that you get is it's the hygroscopic water. And hygroscopic water means if this is a little soil particle, you're going to have, it's the thinnest layer of water that sits around that little soil particle. And it sticks to that soil particle pretty much with the same kind of force as static electricity when you take a jersey off and your hair goes funny.
Or your rubber balloon on your head.
Or your rubber balloon on your head. Yeah. See, physical science again. She clearly likes physical science people. No. Indy.
Never. Kathy, you're my favorite, and I only love life sciences, only.
Okay, so you're back in my good books. All right, so she got to like, I mean, I've got to let her do these things. Okay, so those are the two types of water. Now, our question was, how do you get this water that sort of sits in the soil? Water can only ever move from the soil, where there is more water, to the root, where there is less water. And you're going to say to me, hold on. How can there ever be less water in the root? Because remember, the water is consistently leaving a leaf. So if I have the leaf here, okay, and there's my stem, and then I've got my little roots doing their thing over here. Okay, so there's my little leaf. All right, and now I've got water all the way around here. So there's my water. And I need the water to come into the root. The water is not going to go to where there is a lot. It's always going to go to where there is less, because in nature, we always have a process where it's a little bit like communism. If you have more, you must give to everyone so that it's evenly distributed. Because the whole idea...
Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring. There's another one. If you take a cup of tea and you put a teaspoon of sugar into it and you don't stir it, eventually as you drink the tea, it doesn't taste sweet at all. But as you go lower and lower down, the concentration of the sugar is greater and greater, and it becomes sweeter and sweeter. But if you leave it for long enough, the sugar will dissolve completely.
It's like yesterday in physical science, we learned about mixtures.
You must remember that
I had to bring that in.
Remember that life sciences is also science, by the way, people. It's a very important science, because this life science syllabus that you have in grade 10, 11, and 12 is about you. It's about your body and about your environment and about plants and how they are a bit different to us. So we've got blood vessels. We've got our arteries and our veins that carry blood up and down our body or all around. Okay?
A little highway.
And we've got the lymphatic system, which carries from our feet only up. So think of your lymphatic system as the xylem function. Okay, it only carries water up. Whereas the phloem vessels carry water and nutrients up and down the plant. So from the leaves to the roots, from the roots to the stem, from the stem back to the leaves, because the leaves also need energy to work. So they need the nutrients as well.
So there you go, Tapiwa. He was asking that exact same question, which I was going to jump in and ask you. Tapiwa, I hope you're watching.
Monocotyledons, dicotyledons. You know, mono means one, di means two. Now, the leaves, you should know this. Your leaves for your monocots are like grass. There is no petiole. It has a parallel venation so that it's long. They're long and slender, and they are iso, means the same. Bi means two. Lateral means both sides. So this fancy word, isobilateral, means that both sides, okay, are the same. Dicots, geez, every shape of leaf you can think of on this planet, and they always have a little leaf stem. Okay, lots of shapes, net venation, which means that the veins don't run in one direction, they are all over the show. And yeah, that's about it. And dorsiventral, dorsi means opposite. So the ventral side is different from the top side, opposite to isobilateral, where they are the same. Okay. The stems are green and herbaceous. They never have secondary thickening, so they never grow those big fat stems. You know, those stems that you can't even wrap your arms around? Okay, those are not, those are disaccharides. So these are green and flexible. They have lots of scattered vascular bundles, and there's no cambium. Cambium is your tissue that makes cork. It makes those big fat round trunks, tree trunks. Okay, your stems here, they're woody. If you cut through them, they've got rings. So it's annual rings. They have vascular bundles that are very, very neatly arranged. Because you can imagine, if you're a little twig this size, not a problem. But Indy, can you imagine a tree trunk? I mean, in England and some of the old European countries, they've got tree trunks that you'd need 50 people to put their arms to fit around this thing. Okay, you've got to be organized if you're going to grow to that size. Yeah. So people think about it. Scattered vascular bundles in a monocot, whereas in a dicot, they're arranged. They're so neat, and they really know where they're supposed to be. And your cambium is between your xylem and your phloem. Because when you've got all these millions of layers that form this big fat stem, you've got to make sure that you're making xylem and you're making phloem. And more xylem and more phloem. Otherwise, you're never going to get the water from the soil to the top of the leaves. All right, and then here you've got an adventitious root system. That's a root system that goes sort of sideways. Okay, and it sort of sits there, and the roots are quite shallow.
What does a potato do? Because they don't have leaves. How does the water kind of flow? I don't know.
Wait. Okay. People, a potato is a tuber, okay, and it's a form of vegetative reproduction. So you've got this plant. Let's just do this. Okay. You have in vegetative, okay, let's do our little plant. We've got our, so it's going to have leaves. Okay, now you know why I'm not an art teacher.
I think it's beautiful.
And there's the soil. Okay, this is a potato plant. All right, now, if we look at our potato plant, it has to get water. Okay, we have to do this. It's got to get the water from the soil up the plant, up the xylem vessel. Remember, the xylem vessel always transports water up. So up the xylem, and it goes chips to the leaves. What do the leaves do? The leaves photosynthesize. When they photosynthesize, they will take, and I used to do this with my grade 9s years ago, set them right, watch. Takes water from the soil. I used to make them do this, and I taught boys only at King Edward's. So the boys used to feel very uncomfortable doing this, but say to them, guys, stand, right. Takes water from the soil, carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, and radiant energy from the sun to produce glucose. Now, boys love eating, so they used to appreciate the fact that it was glucose. And I used to watch them in exams. And when they were writing down and all of this happens in the chloroplast of the cell. And when I used to watch them write exams, I used to watch them say,
doing the dance.
And they close their eyes and they're busy. And then I knew they were writing down the definition for photosynthesis. So just remember it. All right. So, and if boys can do it, I promise you, nobody laughed. All right. So the potato plant, and it doesn't look like I've crossed my T there. So let's just make the potato plant. All right. So we've now got the water up by the xylem. The leaves are going to use that, photosynthesize, make nutrients. They're going to make glucose. They're going to make fructose. If it's a fruit, the fruit will contain fructose. The seeds like peanuts and sunflower seeds, which also get made by plants, they are all going to have fats, but here we're looking at a potato plant. So these nutrients are made, and they are then transported via the, and I'm going to use red, the phloem vessel, okay, down the plant, maybe up again into there, down there into this little root, maybe up there, then up again to this little plant cell that needs nutrients to have energy to be able to work, and down again, all right, so that the entire plant, up and down the plant, is the phloem, and it's carrying the nutrients. Now, the plant feels, well, in the case of a potato, it's got to store its nutrients. So it says, alrighty, hold on, because some plants store their food in their stem. Some store it in the root. Some store it in the leaves. Now, we eat lettuce leaves, don't we? Hello. Lettuce and spinach, lots of energy, gives you iron, makes you strong so that you don't get anemic, all right? So there the nutrients are stored in the leaves, okay? In the case of roots, potatoes, we have the tubers. You have stems, onions. You all eat onions. The nutrients are stored in the stem, carrots, which is carrots is a root. So that's where the nutrients are stored. So the potato is now going to start developing a little tuber. And the little tuber is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we are going to go and dig in the ground, and we're going to break the tuber off the root. Okay? And there's my potato. But what's stored in there? A substance that cannot be dissolved. Because the minute that substance becomes dissolved, it's going to move up the phloem again. So we want to store it. So we say glucose, plus another glucose, plus another glucose, plus another glucose, and so on and so on, and we store it as a polysaccharide in the form of a substance called starch. So that's how the potato plant and where the potatoes came from. But if this was a carrot and you had, there's your carrot, and then you've got your leaves that come up over there because it's got this tiny little stem. This would have been water being stored, or nutrients being stored in the root. It's a tap root. Right, people? So it's as easy as 1, 2, 3.
Well, we've got a question here from Tapelo, and it's got to do with, I think, the carrot. Well, he asks, how are the roots, how are the root hairs adapted for their function?
Very important.
Actually, I'm going to do this after another question. We've got a vascular bundle question, so I think it will actually
Okay, no, let me do the root hair first.
Okay, we're all getting overexcited.
Something that is, okay, look, I was going to get to the root hair because I was going to show you the whole root and then do the root hair. I may as well do the root hair now. A root hair is actually an extension of an epidermal cell. It's part of the epidermis. Now, we have epidermis. Our skin is our epidermis. Okay, but in a plant, and Indy, you need to, now this is what makes life science special, is in a leaf, the epidermis, you've got the epidermal cells is to protect. It's got this waxy layer on the outside, and then it's got these little cell structures that look like the half beans. Well, they look like bean structures. Yes. And that's the little holes or the pores to allow the gases to move in and out of a leaf. And you think, a plant can do all of this? Let me tell you something, they actually are awesome. Then, a specialized epidermal cell, you've got the stomata, but specialized epidermal cells in the little root. And you know what, when you've got a root that goes, there's the taproot, you've got your lateral roots, and there's your taproot keeps going. And at the end of each one of these roots here, you're going to have a structure that looks like this. That's
I can't believe how fast
each of
these lessons have gone here, Kathy.
Terribly fast. We've got our producer shouting at us and saying, 5 minutes left. And I think, whoa, it's like an hour. All right, people watch. You've got the root cap, which is as this little root goes, whatever branch it is going through the ground. And then you've got this region here, which is your growth region. It's called the meristematic region. Okay, that's the growth region. That's where mitosis takes place all the time to make brand new cells, and it pushes the tip of the root forward into the soil. And then just behind, then you've got the region of elongation. So here you've made the new cells. Here your new cells are getting bigger. So I'm just going to put elongation here. I have no idea why I keep making these little squares. All right, and then just behind that, here, you've got your region of differentiation. And that's where you're going to get your root hairs. And your root hair's job, 80% of the water that's absorbed by a root, 80% is absorbed in this region here. 80%. Not here and everywhere else. Here, at the tip, where the root hairs are. It's your root hair region. Now, if we look at our root hair, it's a little structure. So remember, these are your epidermal cells. So there's one epidermal cell, and now your root hairs are modified epidermal cell. Now look at why we say it's a modified epidermal cell. It's got like a nose like Pinocchio that sticks into the soil. And anything, people, that has a fold in it increases the surface area. And you're going to say, whoa, 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 stop the boat. And I'm going to say, no, no. Watch here.
Stop the bus.
Stop that bus. I want to get off. No, you don't. We are going to do this together. It's easy as pie. Okay? And I'm not making a fan. Do you remember when you were in grade 1 and 2? And it takes you back all those years. And us mommies, when we have to sit through long, extended prize givings at your schools and those hot school halls, we do this. We take the program and you go, okay? So you sort of do the fan thing. Well, the fan thing is what we're talking about. If I have 30 centimeters, which is a page, and I want to cram this into 1 millimeter, look, I can do it. But I've still got 30 centimeters sitting in here. And that's what we call an increased surface area. All right, so instead of it being this way, we've put folds in it. And we put those folds in to increase the surface area. The same thing applies here. So if we look at this root hair, number 1, it has, your roots have no cuticle. This is how they are suited to their function. Structure versus function. They have no cuticle. Not like a leaf that's got a nice thick cuticle. No cuticle, so the water can move in easily, number 1. Number 2, you've got this. Now look at this structure here. It is long. It has extended. So hang on, I want to move this back to there. All right? So it's got an increased surface area because of this protrusion that sticks out, this extension that sticks out. In between, and here I'm going to have my soil particles. Okay? And so that's the second. You've got increased surface area. And apart from that increased surface area, I've got a very thin layer of cells. A thin cell layer. So the water can get in there quickly. And the water is going to move from a high water potential to a lower water potential because the vacuole in that root hair is so large. And it contains plenty of cell sap with dissolved nutrients. So it's always going to cause a lower water potential inside there. So the water moves from a higher to a lower water potential all the way through till it gets to the xylem vessels and up the plant. And I'm afraid, people, that's it.
Grade 11s, thank you so much for tuning in, and please come back next week for another lesson. Okay, have a good evening, guys. Bye.